Hello, and welcome to the Forever Fit with Carol Cavino podcast. I'm your host, Carol Cavino. I'm a health and fitness coach for women over the age of 40 who are struggling with perimenopausal and menopausal hormonal symptoms. I help these ladies to lose the body fat for good and to tone and strengthen their bodies. I'm excited about today's show. I have a special guest, Ricky Brandon. Let me tell you a little bit about Ricky before we get started. Ricky Brandon is a health and wellness advocate who is turning the modern conversation on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy on its head to address myths, misconceptions, and outright lies that are keeping people from reaching their optimal health, both men and women. Ricky uses natural hormone replacement therapy to help his clients address all of the life altering symptoms ranging from anxiety and depression. I know that was something I had in perimenopause to chronic pain and fatigue. He spent years of trial and error trying to solve his own health issues and those of his wife, problems that traditional medical approaches simply weren't solving. Ricky and his wife, Candy, and she's a molecular biologist, that's a mouthful, started Hormone Balance Centers, a leading provider of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Ricky started Hormone Balance Centers because they could not find the high level of care that they desired for their own family and knew that other people were needing as well. After years of searching, thousands of hours in training, research, and trial and error, he has finally landed on the process and system that combines traditional medicine with alternative medicine, so important, and helps people to feel great again, live younger and happier with natural hormone replacement therapy. Ricky, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Carol. I'm so excited to be on your show because I've been listening to your podcast and I love what you're out there teaching and doing. Like, I did not hear one thing on any of the podcasts that I disagree with that you do. So you're on the same mission I am. So that's why I'm so excited to be on your show.
Oh, thank you so much, Ricky. I'm excited too. Just looking through everything you've done, I was just so impressed with your journey. And I would love for you to share with the listeners. So
Yeah.
I know you went through this struggle, your wife went through a struggle. What was that like? How did that all come about?
Yeah. So I had been working for a hormone doctor, like not as a clinician, but helping him with his marketing and things like that for nearly 20 years. And he was the very first hormone replacement therapy clinic, maybe the second in Utah. So this was cutting edge, ahead of its time, right? And you've heard that saying, you can't be a prophet in your own backyard.
Yes.
So I have an amazing wife. We've had 4 kids. Our youngest is 10 right now. And so you can imagine what our life is like. It's busy, it's crazy, and all of that. And with every kid, my wife seems to lose a little bit more energy, a little more zest. She's still amazing. And I think women in general have this, I don't know, plight, I'll call it, that they give to everyone else before themselves. It seems to be innate in them. My husband needs this. My kids need this. My family needs this. And they start running on an empty cup. So with every kid, with every new challenge, with every new adventure, my wife's cup just kept getting more and more empty. And with the last one, it just got to where she had nothing left in her cup to give. She didn't get up in the mornings. She didn't help me get the kids off to school. I mean, she did sometimes, but she did all she could. And I could realize she couldn't. Like, she's not a lazy woman, right?
Hmm.
She just couldn't. She didn't have it in her. And I kept saying, let's go get your hormones checked. Let's go get your hormones checked. And she's like, no, 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 right? She's going to solve this herself. Even being a molecular biologist and understanding all of this, I, I don't know what it is about women. They just keep giving.
Hmm.
And she would go to the regular doctor, our family care doctor. He would look at her labs and he'd say, everything looks normal. or everything looks normal for your age. And you come away going, well, I don't feel normal. I know something's wrong. And you're not getting validated anywhere. And so after, lots of back and forth, and there was maybe a little postpartum depression, and we approached that, and I just kind of courted her all over again. Because that was advice a friend gave me, just make her feel loved and all of that. So I courted her all over again. Follow those little promptings to bring flowers home today, or today I just need to take care of everything, and just like I did when we were courting. And that worked, and that helped us have this conversation of maybe you're depressed. But then I came home one day, right? And she was sitting on the couch, and she just looks at me, and you have this, that look, there's a look when this is serious. And she says, Ricky, I've been sitting here and I'm so thirsty, but I don't even feel like getting up off the couch to get a glass of water. Will you bring me a glass of water? That's not laziness. There's nothing left in her cup. And you can imagine how I felt. I have to fix this, right? I'm a man. I have to fix things. And I'm begging her, let's go get your hormones checked. And she's like, no, I can fix this, right? I can get through this. Several months later, we start eating better. We start exercising. We hired a personal trainer at this gym that's called Energy Explosion. And I love this gym. They work in one-on-one with you. And I've become friends with the owner of the gym. We're working like crazy. I'm getting results, but my wife isn't. She's still pushing through, and she has the faith that she does all these things, right? And one time the gym owner, he comes over and he says, Candy, I see you putting in the effort. I'm here. I watch you. You should be getting better results. Have you ever had your hormones checked? And she snaps her head around and looks at me like, did you hear that too? And I'm like, yeah, let's go see Dr. Jones. Now at this time, Dr. Jones is kind of getting ready to retire, and she didn't want to go see him. So we called a bunch of other clinics. She wanted someone who was going to be around long term. Dr. Jones, who I was working for, was getting ready to retire and sell his practice. And so everywhere we called, we were just kind of disappointed. We didn't get real answers. So finally, I talked her into going to Dr. Jones. And his office is an hour away. So we did telemedicine. I had helped him get to where he could do telemedicine for anyone in any state. And he got her labs, and the same labs that the other doctors would tell her, hey, everything looks normal, everything's within range. He looks at them and he says, I don't know how you're getting up in the morning. If you had walked into my clinic, I would send you straight away to the hospital for an IV. Now that was specifically her ferritin, her iron was so low, amongst other things. So that's what he addressed first with her. He's like, let's look, your iron is deplorable. He goes, what does your doctor say about this? And she goes, well, he tells me to take an iron supplement. Well, no, the first words out of his mouth were, please don't tell me you're a vegetarian.
Oh, no.
And she says, no, I'm not a vegetarian. I eat meat. And he goes, how often? What do you eat? And this and that, right? And then he says, what is your doctor saying? He says, doctor says take an iron supplement. And I do. And he goes, and your ferritin is still this low? He goes, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to change you to a different supplement, the right kind of supplement that's not going to make you constipated. And I want you to take this food enzyme with it. And I want you to take it on this schedule. So that's the first thing he did. Then the next thing he did, and already you can see her getting excited. She's like, I feel validated, right? Like, wow, there really is something wrong. Because internally, she's having this argument in her head. The doctor says everything looks normal. I don't feel normal, so I must be broken, right? It must be my mental ability to cope. Well, it was, but it wasn't her mind. She didn't have any fuel. She didn't have anything to support that drive that she had before. And so then he approaches her thyroid. She had had a part of her thyroid taken out. And so she's on thyroid medicine. And he looks at her thyroid medicine, which I've listened to your podcast. You know the difference between T3, T4, and thyroid stimulating hormone and all of that. We'll get into that later if the conversation goes there. But he looks at her T3 and T4, and he immediately doubles her medication. She was taking the right kind. She just wasn't taking enough. And he doubled it. And this is going to open up a conversation later about ranges and how those ranges on your lab reports are made and how we kind of need to ignore them. We need to not treat the labs. We start with the labs, but then you need to treat the person and how the person feels. Because those lab ranges are made by insurance actuators to make the company profitable. They're averages from healthy people to young people to old people, and they come up with an average and they say, this is the range for everybody. Someone might need to be higher. Someone might need to be lower. And this is where you would agree with me that everybody's a little different, and your body's going to use these hormones a little different. Someone might need more at a younger age, and someone might need more in the winter versus the summer. Some of our clients change seasonally, and they've kind of learned the rhythm of their body. And so anyways, we look at the labs. He starts treating her based on the labs, but then every appointment after that was, how do you feel? How do you feel? And I said, well, don't you need to get more labs? He goes, no. I mean, we did get labs once in a while just to see if it was working, right? But he's now treating the person, not the labs. And he knows what he's looking for. And so then he approaches her after her thyroid. Then he says, oh, gee, you don't have too much estrogen, but you're estrogen dominant. And she goes, what does that mean? He's like, you don't have enough progesterone to balance out your estrogen. And this is one of the reasons you can't lose weight, because estrogen is lipogenic. It's going to make you hold on to fat. And so let's get you some progesterone. And so he gives her some progesterone, very low dose, and slowly increasing it depending on how she feels. And let me tell you what the first 2 weeks were like. Almost immediately, now you can imagine I'm the fix-it husband, right? The moment he gives the prescriptions, I'm zooming off to the pharmacy and I'm zooming off to his office to get the right supplements that he recommended. And the first week, 2 weeks, she started sleeping better. About 10 days in, she jumped on the scale, and she goes, now she had been putting in tons of work before this, watching her diet and everything. And she looks at me and she goes, oh my gosh, Ricky, I lost 2 pounds. And all we'd done different was add the supplementation and the iron. She's waking up in the morning and she says, she's almost in tears. And she says, I'm going to be so mad if that was all it is. Now, she's not mad that she found an answer. She's mad that she went so long. And the answer was so simple. And she's progressively lost weight ever since. Not that we're not vain people, so it's not about vanity. But when you're overweight, you don't feel good. Your body's not working right. She wakes up in the morning now. She's lost easily 45 pounds.
Wow.
By following the regimen. She feels great. She has energy. Her iron is up. And it's like a new life. It's like we're vital again. And I have my own story, which I won't share right now, with testosterone. And, the depression went away. I wasn't having any sexual dysfunction. I was depressed. I wanted to give up. And testosterone did the same thing that progesterone did for my wife. Testosterone I got my drive back. I didn't want to go to work. That all changed. And so, the one thing I want to, but, as we get into the conversation, and I'll let you ask some questions here. And sorry, I'm just passionate, right?
No, I love what you're sharing.
My mission, right? My purpose of doing all of this is I want to I want to change that paradigm. First of all, I want women to realize you have to almost become a master negotiator to get the kind of healthcare you need.
Yes.
That doesn't mean go head to head and fight with your doctor. It means sometimes there's a little give and take, and you got to think about how I'm going to ask the question, because doctors are terrified of hormones because it's beat into their head when they're going to school, and they work for places that are worried about being sued.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have these protocols that they follow. Your doctor likes you, but he's not allowed to become friends with you. I had a doctor literally tell my wife and I that, because if he becomes too friendly and cares too much, he might break protocol, do
Mm-hmm.
what he knows he needs to do, but he doesn't want, he's got to keep his job. He's got to see a patient every 15 minutes. He's got to, do all of these things. And they got into medicine because they want to help people. That's the kind of people they are. But then the reality of it is malpractice insurance and all of this is so expensive that they end up in a job, just like you and I end up in a job, and there's a boss telling them what to do. And here's how we do things. And they have to follow that. And there's a protocol for if you're diabetic, there's a protocol for thyroid, there's a protocol, and they just follow the protocol. And you think that they're being creative and they're thinking about you. They're not. There's a big book of protocols that say, if this, then that. It's like a computer program.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they treat you. And then they adjust accordingly, but they don't really treat you. They treat the labs because they have to. They're told to. Doctors are not bad. They want to help you. They're just not allowed to. There's these handcuffs put on them and restraints. The first time I realized this was, now we're not hippies. We're not anti-doctor. We did have all of our kids at home with a midwife though.
Mm-hmm.
So that can give you some insight into how amazing my wife is, right? We started out going to a doctor and a midwife just because I had heard midwives give excellent prenatal care. And we were going to have, my wife had back surgery and she was worried about having a child, wanted to have a child in the hospital and all of that. But as we went along, the midwife would teach us, the doctor would just, say, well, what about this? And the doctor would say, that's for me to worry about. Don't worry about it. I'd go to the midwife. We'd go to an appointment the next week with midwife. I'd ask the same question. 45 minutes later, we come out feeling confident and empowered and understanding how it works. And over this course, we learned that the midwife had actually delivered more babies than the doctor. And we learned how passionate she was. And she, if a doctor loses a baby or a patient, they have malpractice insurance. If a midwife does, they're out of business. They're in real trouble. She doesn't want to lose us. She doesn't want to lose a baby. She knows what she's doing. She knows when to send you to the doctor. If you pick a good one, there's some crazies out there, but if you pick the right one. So, but I started asking about protocols and procedures. And I had learned that when a baby is born, they put this goop in the baby's eyes. It's like thick, like Vaseline. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked, why do they do that? And they said, well, this is, there's an STD. Most women aren't honest about their sexual histories, and they might have had an STD, even if they say they've never had one or whatever. And this goop is to protect from an STD that gets transferred to the baby's eyes as they pass through the birth canal. And so as protocol, we put this in there. So as the baby passes through the birth canal, they could contract this, and this kills it off. Great. But I have now the midwife saying, look, this stuff is incredibly painful for the kid. It burns their eyes. It's uncomfortable.
Oh.
And if you know your history, you don't need to do this, right? So then we're at the doctor and I say, so that goop they put in the eyes, what happens? And he confirmed that's what it's for. And then I said, what if you have a C-section and the baby doesn't even come through the birth canal? And he goes, we still do it. And I said, why? And he said, it's protocol. We have to.
Wow.
So that, it's not a terrible thing, right? It's not, But it is at the same time, that's the first time I started to realize they have to follow protocol no matter what. And the protocol is there. It's not going to harm you, but it's not necessarily going to get you to optimal. So this is where I started learning. This was a long time ago, right? I started becoming a little more free in my thinking. So many people think, well, if my insurance covers it, if my insurance doesn't cover it, I must not need it. That's baloney. If your insurance doesn't cover it, it just might not be profitable. I got a colonoscopy recently, and they said, oh, I got in a conversation about blood pressure because my blood pressure came down while I was under all the meds. and they said, oh, they're actually in debates right now and talking about raising the blood pressure, high blood pressure, by 5 points. And I said, why? And the lady says, well, I don't know. And I said, I know why. Because they figured out if they raise it 5 points, you're not going to die within that 5-point range until you get to 6, 7, 8 above where the high blood pressure line is now. But someone figured out how much money they're going to save on blood pressure medicine prescriptions that they don't have to pay for. And that 5-point range is not going to make people really bad for so many years. So it's profitable enough that we can raise that 5 points. The same thing's been happening with testosterone ranges in and mostly men. Like you wouldn't believe it. I've seen testosterone be a key factor in reversing type 2 diabetes. And they keep changing the range. Like just between the past couple of years, I've seen the range change from, I think for men, it was 350, 300 was low to 900 is high. That's a huge range.
It is. Mm-hmm.
And I just had a guy come in with his labs and they changed it to 700. Back in the 50s, the normal range was 600 to 1400. It just keeps coming down because they know you're not going to die. And there is a regular endocrinologist is going to treat you when you're below normal. That very bottom line.
Yes.
So let's say 300 is the bottom. If you're 301, you're within normal range, but you feel like crap. You go to 299, now you're below normal. We'll treat you. That's like saying, I don't know what the poverty level is, but let's say it's $25,000 a year. But you make $26,000 a year. So let's not have you go out and get a better job until you hit $24,000 a year. Then you're in poverty. Then we'll get you. I don't know about you. I don't want to live in low normal. I want to live in high optimal for as long as I can.
Yes, and such a big difference between normal and optimal.
Huge difference. So that's kind of it, right? There's the premise, right? The range, you have to kind of not ignore the ranges because it depends on what you're testing, but certain things you might need to be higher than what's normal to feel at your best. So our goal is to get you, start you out, get you feeling better, and get you to the highest we can without feeling adverse effects. So for example, progesterone. If you take too much progesterone, you're going to have a progesterone hangover in the morning and feel groggy. We don't want you doing that. So we're going to get you down to where you feel great and you sleep great. You go to bed on time, you have a great rest, and you're feeling good. You're feeling happy. Progesterone is kind of a happy hormone. It's going to kill that stinking thinking that happens at 3 a.m., or before you go to bed and your mind is racing. Progesterone's going to calm that, allow you to go to sleep through the night. It's going to balance out the estrogen if you have estrogen dominance, or you might need estrogen, which doctors are terrified of. And can I make this next point? Do you have
Yes, absolutely.
Let me tell you why. It's all from that Women's Health Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Before that Women's Health Initiative, they had started discovering what progesterone and estrogen did for people, right? And you had all these women with symptoms of hot flashes and can't sleep and achy joints, and they would go on Premarin or Primpro, which is a prescription drug. And by the way, Premarin is equine. It's an equine hormone.
Mm-hmm.
It's made from mare urine, right? Premarin, it's mare urine, and might be good for horses, not so good for people. And they turned it into a prescription, right? Because with a prescription, you can get a patent and you can mark it up to whatever you want to mark it up, because nobody else can sell it. Supply and demand, right? But there's natural estradiol, which is what your body makes, and progesterone, which is different than a progestin. So birth control and all of that stuff that's in there is usually a progestin. Its real name is medroxyprogesterone acetate. So it starts out looking like progesterone, and they add a methyl group and an acetate, and it becomes this unique molecule. And if you looked at your progesterone under a microscope and you looked at the progestins, they look different. There's extra, if I could show you a picture, there'd be extra little groups on there. But the core is the same with these extra groups. That extra groups are what your body doesn't know how to deal with. If hormones were bad, we would take out everyone's ovaries at age 30. They kind of did that for a while, messed a lot of people up. And look, your body makes hormones. And if we can that's why it's important to be bioidentical or natural. That means if you take the estradiol or the progesterone and that your body makes, and you compare it to what the compounding pharmacy makes for you, they're going to look exactly the same. You can't tell the difference. So technically it's still synthetic because it's made in a lab, but it's made exactly to match the same molecular structure as the hormones your body makes, so your body knows how to deal with it. And it doesn't give you cancer. It does quite the opposite. And so this Women's Health Initiative study showed that women who were taking the Premarin and these synthetic prescriptions that weren't bioidentical had an increase in breast cancer. And so they said, they came out with this study, and then all of a sudden, right? I remember I was amazed on the news because it was the first time like I'd seen the news tell the truth, right? And they said, yeah, this is increased, 50% chance higher. There were conflicting studies, but they used the words progesterone, not progestin. And so they basically said, if you take estrogen and progesterone, you are increasing your chance of breast cancer. At the time when that came out, these hormone prescriptions were the #1 selling drug. It seemed like you talked to anyone and they were taking it, and it changed their life dramatically. So now they were faced with this decision, and gynecologists are sending out letters. Yeah, this study came out, you might get cancer, but you chose to be on this, you chose to be on it. And all these women were faced with, do I get my symptoms back immediately and go off of this? Or do I maybe get cancer in 20 years? And you'd be surprised, 70-80% chose to stay on the prescription because they didn't want those immediate symptoms were so miserable. And the idea that maybe I'll have cancer in 20 years, let's kick the can down the road. They didn't want, those symptoms are so bad. Now, another thing that happens, and again, I want everyone to make their own decisions. I'm not making a blanket statement that everyone should go out and do this. But if someone has breast cancer, the first thing they do is put them on estrogen blockers. And they're blocking all the estrogen out of their body. They don't want them to have anything estrogen because it's going to make their cancer come back, is what they say. So they don't put them on hormones. Someone has a hysterectomy, they put them on hormones for a little while. Without that estrogen, your life is miserable.
Yes, it is.
Your joints hurt, the hot flashes, vaginal dryness, urinary tract infections, your mental state. Like, you've experienced this, right, Carol?
I have. I have. I was miserable through perimenopause, and no one was having this conversation back in the day. I'm 61 now, and people weren't discussing it. I thought there was something wrong with me. I had
Yeah.
no idea.
So
And I experienced.
here's what generally happens. People go in with these symptoms and they keep complaining to their doctor, and finally their doctor gets tired of it. He won't put them on hormones because he doesn't know about bioidentical hormones. All he knows is what he's been taught. These prescriptions are what we have to deal with it, and they might cause cancer. So be very careful how you use them. That's what they're taught. They don't know about this bioidentical side. They can't be an expert in everything. That's why you have to find someone who is open-minded and can study this. I can show you 10 times the studies against the one about cancer with synthetic hormones. I can show you 10 times the studies that say natural hormones prevent cancer. In fact, long time ago, when they would do surgery for breast cancer, they would wait until the point of a woman's phase when the progesterone was highest, because the progesterone stopped the spread of the cancer. In fact, high progesterone almost encased the cancer and would block it down to a small area instead of having it spread. So they would wait to do the surgery until your progesterone was at the highest. Why does everybody forget this? Why do they not look at those studies? Those studies aren't put in front of the doctors when they go to school because the pharmacy companies fund all of those schools and have so much money flowing in. They can't make money off of a natural hormone because it's not patentable. I mean, there is money made by the pharmacist by a little markup, but they can't, I'm assuming you're on bioidentical hormones, maybe
I
some
am
creams.
estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone.
And is it very expensive?
Um, I guess that's a relative
It
kind of
is.
question. It can be. I mean, if somebody doesn't have the means, that's always a concern for me
Yeah.
because in my community, women will reach out and they want that help, but they're not able to pay out of pocket for
Yeah.
the bioidenticals or for the practitioner. So when I see my nurse practitioner, that's all out of pocket. It's not through insurance. I'm blessed that I'm able to go. My husband's able to go, but I know there are women in my community that don't
Yeah.
have access to this.
I have the same problem. I mean, I want to help and I do sometimes, right? And I've got a great pharmacist who sometimes, sometimes he'll send people to me and he'll say, look, there's one, this is the greatest. I mean, I love the people that I meet. My pharmacist has one patient who their doctor stopped practicing or whatever. It's an 83-year-old woman. She is like a 60-year-old woman. She still works. She's amazing. And he says, can you help her out? She doesn't have much money. He goes, I give her prescriptions for free. And then sometimes she says, I have to pay you something. So
Mhm.
I'll take $10 or $20 from her. And he goes, can I send her to you? She needs help. She needs someone to renew her prescriptions. And I told her about you. And he goes, I will even pay her bill if you want me to. Now, he's helped me so much in building this business that I'm like, no, send her over. We're going to help her. And we just keep trading like that. And I know if I need to, I can call him up and say, hey, this person needs your help. If their insurance won't cover it, and he'll always check. Sometimes your insurance will cover some of it. And then I'll get a phone call and someone will say, you won't believe what he did. It's Christmas time. And he renewed all my prescriptions for free for 90 days. And, I wish I could do that for everybody, but this is important to me that people get the health, and I can't give it away. Just like my wife can't keep giving from an empty cup. If my cup is empty, I can't help anybody,
Right.
And when you really think about it, gosh, you spend a lot. What you get back in life, look, I can work again. My wife is participating fully in our marriage again. She's there present. I would pay 5 times what I spent. And when you start to see, look, even in our food budget, guess what? Because we feel good, we cook and we shop for good, healthy foods and we cook. My food budget went down dramatically because we weren't exhausted and said, let's just order pizza tonight, or let's just go out again because nobody feels like cooking. You have no idea what you're going to save and how your quality of life is going to go up. And really the amount that you spend is so small in comparison to that. Like we were paying, we hired a fitness, we hired someone to work one-on-one to teach us to exercise. Because I had finally realized this isn't going to get any better and I don't know how to fix it. And then I started paying for the education and going, I mean, I'm sitting in, I'm not a doctor. I know that's going to surprise you. How do you run this? I hire doctors who are like-minded. I filter them. I find people who want to really practice medicine and are tired of the handcuffs put on them of their job. And I say, I'll pay you to spend as much time as you need with the customer. That costs me money, but it's not as much as you think. It's not as much as you think. Someone coming to our clinic spends about $2,000 a year for someone to meet with them as often as they need to and give them their prescriptions. Now, where I wish I did better, and I do okay, but I wish I did as good as you, is at the health and wellness lifestyle part. Because kind of our philosophy or our goal is to help you feel good again. So you're not like my wife who didn't want to get off the couch to get a drink of water.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can imagine if you feel like that and you walk into the doctors and they say, well, you need to diet and exercise. And you're like, it took everything I had just to walk in here today. And you want me to go diet and exercise? I can't even cook for myself. So my goal is to get them feeling good again and then live a wellness lifestyle. And those two hand in hand are going to give you a high quality of your life for the rest of your life. You and I both know people. Look at you. You're 61, you said? Look
Yes,
at you.
I'm
You
61.
run circles around 40-year-olds. I know this 83-year-old woman who is like a 60-year-old woman. And I see people getting younger as they get older. There's this thing called the neuroendocrine theory of aging. It's a mouthful. But the way I interpret it is, it's the question, do you age because your hormones lower? Or do your hormones lower because you age? I think your hormones lower, and that's because you age, because of stressors. People say, why are we having this problem now? We live in such a stress-filled world. We were never meant to live like this, going 110% of the time. We idolize people who are doing the grind and have a side hustle, and we never have downtime. We're always going to do more. And if we don't, we're not, we're not optimal. We're not whatever. Boy, we were never meant to live like that. And it's taking its toll. We were meant to go and grow our food. We were meant to create and get our hands dirty once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And move and work outside. And that's where I would start. If you're feeling terrible, just, maybe you don't have to go sit in the gym for an hour, but count sweeping your porch as exercise. Count taking the stairs, drink more water, take supplements, get your hormones checked. Don't be afraid of it. Your doctor's afraid of it. Look, I am telling you, I can show you study after study after study that says bioidentical or natural hormones protect you from cancer, give you energy, help increase muscle mass, right? I'm so glad to hear you're on testosterone. Women don't need very much, but it increases your muscle mass. It lowers, it lowers the chance of osteoporosis. You do testosterone and you get your estrogen and progesterone right, it does better for osteoporosis than the osteoporosis medications that they're giving.
Agreed. And there's still some misconceptions about testosterone with women, that women don't need it. And you see this with medical insurance covering it for men, but not for women. And I know my nurse practitioners told me it's harder and harder for her to prescribe it for women. and they are controlling it to such a degree that oftentimes the woman can't even get the dose that she needs.
Yeah. And you don't need very much, really.
No,
What have you
no.
noticed since you've been doing this? How long have you been using hormones?
I started at age 50, and I was one of those that said, I will never do bioidenticals. I was terrified. I remember that study well. I was convinced I wouldn't do it. And then I just got so miserable. The quality of life was so poor. All of the symptoms, the not sleeping, the low libido, the dry skin, and even my hair started to thin and fall out. And I felt like I was aging rapidly, having trouble putting on muscle. So finally, I relented. I got a referral to Melissa Para, who's still my nurse practitioner to this day, started the hormones at age 50. And I was terrified. I initially argued with her because I didn't
Yeah.
understand. But with the testosterone, what I noticed was motivation came back. You feel
Yes.
like you get your mojo back, your
Yes.
confidence. Yeah, there's the libido part of this, but there's so much more: muscle mass, and same with estrogen because it's protective for bone, muscle, heart, brain. So many benefits. And I don't intend to go off. I have no intention because people
Right.
will ask, how long can you do this? And I intend to do it the rest of my life if I can.
Yeah. They all work synergistically together. Some people will ask me, well, can I just do one hormone? Yeah. Which one? No, you need to do them all.
Yes.
And then I also get this question. Well, I've read that if I start taking hormones, that my body will stop producing hormones. And you kind of look around, you go, well, your body's not making them now. Your
Right.
body already stopped producing them.
Right.
So yeah, you need them. And then, then the other, like with men and testosterone, they say, oh, you're going to get prostate cancer. So they check your prostate while they're giving you testosterone, and they make sure. There's kind of the leading guy on testosterone for men. His name is his last name's Morgenthaler,
Mhm.
Abram Morgenthaler, right? And he talks about this study where he took a lizard and they castrated the lizard, so the lizard had no ability to procreate, and they killed all testosterone in the lizard. And they put female lizards in, and they usually do this dance, and the men do this push-up dance and have fun when they're courting, and he just ignored. He just stood there like nothing. Now he's still castrated, and they injected testosterone, and he started playing again and dancing and having fun. His drive came back. So the whole purpose of his study was to show that testosterone is not only just for sexual function. It gives you your drive. It
Yes.
lowers depression. DHEA is an over-the-counter supplement that will counteract your cortisol, and it has antidepressant properties. All of these things. So normally women are going through menopause, they bug their doctor, they bug their doctor, they bug their doctor, or perimenopause, and the doctor finally relents and gives them an antidepressant,
Yes, I see that all the time. All the time. And anti-anxiety medication.
which causes them way more problems. And then they start putting on weight and they still don't feel right. And look, it's not the problem. If estrogen is the problem, estradiol, give them estradiol. If progesterone is the problem, give them progesterone. Let's not mask it. This is like your check engine light going on in your car. What if you went to a mechanic and your check engine light was on and he goes, I know how to fix this. And he gives you a little piece of black tape and says, put it over the check engine light and you won't notice it anymore. That's
Great
what giving you
analogy.
antidepressants are like,
Yes.
right? Just put it over. Look, all of these hormones have antidepressant properties. Testosterone will give you your drive back. Progesterone and estradiol will help you sleep better and calm those anxieties. And the hot flashes go away in like a week or sooner. And I want to give one warning about, you'll see there's lots of people in the hormone business.
Yes, there is.
And there is a lot of money because it does fix your symptoms fast and it makes you feel great. And there's lots of money in it. You want to find someone who is a teacher, not just a hormone pusher. You want someone who is going to talk with you and consult with you, and you help make decisions about where you want your levels, of where you feel great. I don't like these pellets. I don't know if you've seen the pellets.
I have, and I've seen a lot of negative consequences for women who are put on them. And often what I see is they just go and get the pellet and they're not addressing estrogen, progesterone, thyroid. It's just here's your pellet and there
Yeah.
you go. And I see a lot of weight gain. I've seen hair loss in women.
Here's why I like bioidenticals in creams, capsules, sometimes injections or little troches that you can put under your tongue. You can adjust them.
Yes, easily.
You can go up and down, and you go to a pharmacist who you know is making them bioidentical. I don't know what's in all the pellets. It's this little rice-sized thing that they inject into your butt cheek. And I've had people come in here who are like, oh my gosh, I got a pellet and my hormones are raging and all of a sudden I have this acne.
Yes.
What do I do? Can you help me? And I have to answer, wait 3 months, then come see
Right.
me. Because they come in like 3 doses, small, medium, and large. What if you need an extra small? What if you need an extra large? Sorry, best we can do is the large. Or I need extra small. Well, all I got is the small, so let's give you this one. And most people who, like you said, who are on these pellets, they do help lots of people and they feel great. You'll see great testimonials on them. But most people who are on the pellets have no idea what they're on. I ask them, what's in your pellet? They go, I don't know. I think there's some progesterone, or I don't know, there's some testosterone. They don't know. That means no one sat down with them and explained to them what each of the hormones does, how you should feel, how to know if you've got too much or too little, and adjust it. We meet with people, gosh, the first 6 months, we meet with them every 4 weeks or more if they need. How are you feeling? How are you sleeping? Well, maybe let's adjust that up a little bit. Let's adjust that down. Maybe you need this supplement on top of it. There's wonderful supplements for cortisol that are over-the-counter supplements
Yes.
for the HPA axis, right? And they're called adaptogens. They'll regulate up or down on their own. They're just kind of these magic herbs that when you stack them in the right way, they'll help you regulate your cortisol. And if you get DHEA in there, that has antidepressant properties, and it's a precursor to testosterone.
Yes.
And progesterone and all those things. Look, this is great. I'm sorry I talked so much. I'm so
No,
passionate, but
everything you've said has been amazing and so valuable for the listeners because I know these are the questions that I receive. Now, do you think there's a point it's too late for someone to go on hormone replacement therapy? Because that's an argument I've heard, especially with women, where they say, well, the receptors are no longer there after, I believe, 5 years.
I don't think so. I haven't seen it. I don't have a specific study to show you, but I can tell you all the doctors who I sit in forums with and things like that, they have seen miracles. They have seen miracles. Your body kind of knows what to do. The body's an amazing thing. I don't think it's ever too late, to be honest. Like, okay, maybe you take it for a while and you don't notice a difference. Maybe you need more. Maybe you need more. So you need someone who's not afraid to go up, right? I find most people are too conservative on the hormones. Now, I'm not crazy. I'm not a drug pusher, but I'm also not afraid to go a little higher if your body needs it, right? Because maybe your body just needs a little more to process. I've seen people have to have thyroid levels that are way too high for the norms, but they're having zero adverse side effects. If I give you too much thyroid, you're going to feel heart palpitations and you're going to feel a little anxious if you have too much thyroid. Now, I'm giving people sometimes, not everybody, there's a small group of people who I have them on way more thyroid than any doctor would ever give them. My doctor gives it to them because he knows, he read the studies. They just need that. You and I are different. I don't think those I think if you're eating right, I think those receptors can be repaired.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree. And I feel it's never too late.
It might take you a little longer, but like, it's worth doing the work. I like, you can show up different in life. I want to be at high optimal. Now, this is not some vain grasping on youth. This is, I know who I am. I have a purpose in this life. I know what I want to give to the world and to my family. And I can't do that on an empty cup. I'm not ready to give up yet. There are some people out there who like to be sick. They like to have an excuse. But the kind of people who come see you and me are not those kind of people. They know there's something wrong. I think you know in your gut that there's this is fixable. You know in your gut, this is not me. I'm not done yet. And you've got to use that little bit of fight to find the help. What I hope I can do is give people the hope and enough to feel great, good enough to now that they find their chutzpah, right? They find their energy to live a wellness lifestyle. They want to, they just can't yet. Give them what they need. And then, if you combine, we do have some patients, they feel great on the hormone therapy and then they don't take care of their lifestyle. They argue with me. Maybe they have Hashimoto's disease and they say, well, I'm not gluten intolerant. And I'm just like, look, let me teach you again that you're not gluten intolerant, but gluten causes an inflammatory response and you have an autoimmune disease. Any inflammatory response is not good for you. And gluten is proven over and over to cause inflammatory responses. So
it has,
you cannot eat gluten, right? and they just don't want to change their lifestyle. They want some magic bullet. If you're, hey, that's better than nothing. And if it gives you your life back, but if you combine it with lifestyle, man, you are going to have a long and happy, powerful life.
Agreed.
I agree with everything that you teach. And some people will have miraculous, and I'm sure you see it over and over, miraculous turnarounds from working with you. And other people get stuck, or other people maybe aren't quite ready to work with you yet. Their cup is too empty, or maybe they're not progressing and they need hormone replacement therapy. It will change your life. It can change your life. Do enough homework that you're not afraid of it. If you need a book to read that's not mine and you want different books to read, call me up, send me an email. I will tell you which books to read. You don't have to get them from me. You can go on Amazon and get them. They're great books from doctors who will kind of put in layman's terms the studies that prove these don't cause cancer. And there's years and years of study. You don't need to be afraid of them. If you find a good practitioner who knows what they're doing, and you'll know that you found them, you'll know in your gut because they have the heart of a teacher and they're not just trying to sell you an expensive product. Like, it might feel expensive, but when someone's just marketing to you versus someone who really wants to, like, follow your intuition. Don't be so desperate that you buy whatever. Just please take that time to check into your intuition. Everyone I meet is amazing. These women are amazing. They know what's going on in their bodies, even if they don't know the technical term. They can tell you, look, I think something's wrong, different than what my doctor's telling me. And you need someone who will help walk through that exploration with you and get there. Someone who is a little more open-minded and has the heart of a teacher, and you can feel great again. It might take a little experimenting, but they will experiment with you instead of on you. They will treat you, not your labs. They'll look at your labs, but man, I really want women to feel great again. I really want men to feel great again. And you can.
Yes, there's so much. We can find our purpose in the second half of life. because now my kids are, they're grown, they're out of the house. It's a wonderful opportunity when you go through menopause. The kids grow up. It's a wonderful opportunity to do what you've always wanted to do and rediscover your purpose. That's what happened to me. But honestly, it occurred when I had the HRT. I had already started to change my lifestyle and had the lifestyle pieces in place. But when I added the HRT, that's when everything opened up for me. I
Yeah.
started to regain my confidence, my energy, my strength. And I love what you're doing, and I love how caring you are and the emphasis that you put on education, Ricky, because you don't see that always. That's what I love about my nurse practitioner. She, there's handouts and she explains everything to me, and we work together as a team to come up with treatment plans. And I feel that you are doing the same for your patients.
Fear is a signal that I need more information. I've never been afraid to take a test that I was totally prepared for. And if you're afraid of something, you just need more information,
Yes.
and then the fear goes away.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, Ricky. This has just been an amazing conversation. I feel like I need to have you back on to discuss even more things. Before we wrap up, can you tell the listeners, and I know you have a gift as well, can you tell the listeners
Yeah.
where they can find you, get in touch with you, and learn more about your work?
So I'm not sure exactly when this is going to air, but right now I'm changing the gift website. I
Okay.
want to give everyone my book. It's Do Your Hormones Have You Dragging, Sagging, and Nagging?
I love that title.
So, and this is filled with stories of women
Mm,
who have used hormones, and you're going to find your story in this book and help hopefully dissipate some of that fear. But I also am making a little online hormone test where you can just answer some questions. It takes you 2-3 minutes, and it'll kick you back an answer that says where you might be high and where you might be low without a blood test, just based on symptoms. And so I'm going to add that to this website. So I hope it's there by the time you guys, it's freehormonebook.com. So easy. So you just go to freehormonebook.com, put in your email address. I email you the PDF and the audio version of the book. And so if you don't like to read, you can listen to it while you're in your car or whatever. And then I'm also going to add that free hormone test where you can just click through, answer some questions, and we'll email you back. Hey, your thyroid might be low, your testosterone might be low, your progesterone, based on just these. It's kind of a quick overview. I'm surprised at how many people I've been sending people through it, and how many people who have already had their hormones tested, they go take the quiz and they go, this is spot on, you know. So it's a great way to just kind of explore and check without making any commitment. So just go to freehormonebook.com. You'll read stories like my wife's story. If you've ever been tired or had that feeling where you just don't want to get up off the couch, or you just can't go to sleep, or you just don't have the energy, this book will speak to you. And that's it. I want to help people. And even if I help people through telemedicine at our clinic, so you can be in any state. But even if you don't become a patient at our clinic, email me, ask me questions. I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to help you find someone near you. Like I'm on all kinds of forums with hormone doctors who I trust all across the country, and like, just let me help.
Wonderful. We will put the information in the show notes, and I so much appreciate you being on, Ricky. It's been so valuable for the listeners and for me too.
Yay. Thanks for letting me talk. I feel like I just talked and talked
No,
and talked, but
no, everything you said was spot on. I'm in complete agreement, and I just so much appreciate your time, Ricky. To our listeners, wherever you are in the world, we wish you every blessing. Bye for now.
yeah, thank you.